Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, DwyerVIP.com on Roku, Dwyer Boxing, and Dwyer Sports Betting. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let's get out ahead of the crowd. This last weekend we had some excellent performances in the ring. Among them, Mike Alvarado taking apart Brandon Rios in a fight that I did not think was that close. I also thought Isaac Chilemba made Tony Bellew miss so badly that Bellew, in my opinion, looked amateurish at times in their fight. Unfortunately, the judges ruled that one a draw. But of all the performances this weekend, the one that I think was the best performance, this is the performance that has really changed my opinion a bit on the fighter, right? Magnificent performance. It's the performance by Gennady Golovkin over Ishida in Monte Carlo. Now, if you haven't seen the fight, it's a very short fight. I have it right now on my channel page. Just look for the playlist marked Favorites 1. As you go across the playlist, you will see the fight. It's a must-see fight. I'll put it to you this way. It's clear to me that Gennady Golovkin beats more known middleweights. I would take him right now over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I would take him right now over middleweight champion Daniel Geale. I would take him right now over unbeaten Kid Chocolate Peter Quillin. Whether or not Golovkin can beat Sergio Martinez is an open question. If I were Martinez, quite frankly, this is not the guy I would want to fight. It's simply too dangerous. I already had a very high regard for Gennady Golovkin. Longtime viewers know that he and Tyson Fury are on my short list of guys who I really do expect to do big things this year. But what I didn't expect, what surprised me in this fight, was the stiffness, and I do mean stiffness, of Golovkin's jab. It's very stiff, right? That jab is really like a punch. It's not a place setter. He actually throws it to freeze you. Another thing that kind of really impressed me was the extent to which Gennady Golovkin can roll with punches. What I would encourage the boxing hardcore to do is to literally look at clips of Brandon Rios against Mike Alvarado, right? How Rios is literally just there getting hit with right hands. He's not even rolling away from the right hand. You know, he's there. He's throwing punches. He's offensive. He's open for counters. He's not making adjustments. He's getting hit flush with the counter. Now contrast that with Gennady Golovkin, who, first of all, is one of the hardest punchers in the entire sport with both hands, right? Both of his hands have Ishida concerned, and for good reason, right? Understand, as hard as Brandon Rios hits per pound, Gennady Golovkin is a different level. This is outsized punching power, right? This is David Haye, Canelo Alvarez level punching power, right? He's a huge puncher. But yet, even with the offensive skills, right, the offensive capability, you'll notice that Golovkin literally has his upper body on a swivel at times. Guys throw punches. Not only does Golovkin have his hands up, by the way, much higher than Brandon Rios, but he's rolling with punches. It's hard to hit him flush. If he knows you're coming from this side, by the time you throw it, he's already over here. In fact, just with upper body movement and rolling with punches, he's literally able to dodge some of Ishida's combinations, right? Literally, he's rolling, you can't hit him, you can't hit him, you can't hit him. And it's really impressive because understand, he's an excellent counterpuncher and he has built-in leverage, right? He doesn't have to have a wind-up to hit you with punches. So this is a guy who is that worst possible combination for an opponent, right? He's hard to hit, he hits hard, and he's hard to block, right? Because he's already inside. That's the other thing that's remarkable with this fight. How he can set up close to your chest. So he's inside, like Brandon Rios. Only he's not throwing punches, right? He's inside, he's defending himself. Then when there's an opening, he's able to literally throw very hard punches. He has his hands up, just leaning. First he leans, right? Then you're here. He can literally, in this space, from right here to where you are, generate incredible leverage because he knows how to shift his body weight. He has great balance. Let me say too, I made an earlier video where I was talking about some of the tricks that I thought Lennox Lewis did. Gennady Golovkin is the same kind of cerebral fighter. If you want to see a great knockout, and it's a great knockout, I would encourage you to look at the knockout in the third round. It's spectacular, right? It's a one-punch knockout that's really not a one-punch knockout, right? Golovkin, who's right-handed, is so ambidextrous. He throws what I believe to be a fake left uppercut, right? It's a fake left uppercut. And if you see where they are in the ring, he knows Ishida can only go back so far because the ropes are behind Ishida. The ropes are nearby. He throws a fake left uppercut. You know the rest. Ishida, the taller fighter, leans back just enough to avoid the uppercut. And then, of course, Golovkin comes back with a right hook that is on the money and ends the fight, right? That's the game Golovkin is playing. He's literally just throwing punches to get you in position so that he can use his one-punch knockout power, right? Also, inside, he's a master. In other words, you tie him up. You know, he comes inside, you're typically tying him up, right? Let me say this too. In fact, let me back up a little bit. Let me give Golovkin the respect he deserves. When I say he comes inside, I'm not talking about like Brandon Rios, and I know I'm picking on Rios. One of the reasons is the Rios fight just happened. But you know how Brandon Rios is on his front foot. So you know he's coming inside, right? He's not keeping you guessing on when he comes inside. It's different with Golovkin. Golovkin's patient. Worse yet, he's feinting like he's going to come inside. You're not exactly sure when he's going to come inside. The feints are so good. They're not just head feints. He's not just head feinting you like this, having you guessing when he's going to come inside. The way he has his body, he's even feinting you with his gloves, right? Without throwing punches, he moves his gloves a little bit as if he's going to come inside. Now understand, it's important because this is a guy who doesn't need a wind-up to throw a money punch. If you guess wrong on when he's coming inside, suddenly he's inside and he's doing major damage, right? And so it's great because at one point Golovkin gets inside. Ishida, who's slick, right? Understand, Ishida went the distance with Paul Williams. Ishida stopped James Kirkland, right? This is a guy with a chin and ring savvy, right? He is a vet. Golovkin gets inside. Ishida ties him up. Here's the problem. Ishida isn't able to tie him up all the way because Golovkin is one of these veteran fighters who knows how to come inside and stretch his hands out and turn his body. So you can't tie him up all the way. So, of course, what does Golovkin do with his free hand? He hits Ishida in the ribs. Then he comes up top with an uppercut. Same hand, right? That tells you all you need to know about his balance. Ishida, quite frankly, is never the same, right? That shot to the body really impacts Ishida. You can tell the rest of the fight that Ishida is cautious, literally has his hand a little bit lower than it should be because he's trying to guard his ribs, right? And of course, that just dovetails nicely into a third round that really is a masterpiece. Golovkin is applying pressure without applying pressure. In other words, he's in front of Ishida. He's feinting a little bit. He's patient. He's not rushing in. But both guys understand that when he comes inside, it's a problem. So Ishida is under the worst kind of pressure. The pressure of having felt the other guy's power, of knowing the other guy's dangerous, and of having the other guy know that he's dangerous, right? And so let me just say, Golovkin right now is easily one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. You're going to hear a lot about middleweights like Peter Quillin, right, who has a following, has a TV contract, has his next fight going to be on TV against Guerrero, right? By the way, a lot of people are interested in that fight. You're going to hear about a lot of big-name middleweights. Understand that Chavez Jr. remains one of the biggest draws in boxing, right? That's not opinion, by the way. That's based on ratings for his fights, right? We can actually judge cable audiences for the fighters' fights and box office receipts, right? Chavez Jr. is one of the bigger draws in boxing, right? He's not Floyd Mayweather, but he's better than most fighters when it comes to pulling power. So keep an eye on Golovkin because, quite frankly, I believe Golovkin beats most of these guys. Understand, Golovkin has a very impressive amateur pedigree. He actually dropped Lucien Boutte in the amateurs. This guy, quite frankly, marries very heavy punching power with very savvy boxing skill. And he's not in a rush. I believe he's a different fighter than the fighter who had all kinds of problems a few years ago with Kasim Uma, right? So all I can say is, understand, there are mid-range hookers. This guy's not a mid-range hooker, right? Because his jab is actually a very good jab, right? He has you having to guard against punches up the middle. Understand that the minute you start to do that, given his feints, he can then throw hooks and take you out on the side. Understand, too, he's not a mid-range hooker because that jab allows him to fight from long range, and he also has an inside game, right? So while he might look like Matthew Macklin, he's not Matthew Macklin. I think this guy beats Macklin. I think this guy beats Barker. The only names I wonder about at middleweight who might give him problems are the great Sergio Martinez and possibly Dmitry Pirog if Pirog's back problem is not major. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Sometimes people ask me here online informally, hey, how long does it take you to analyze a fight? And as I always tell them, if you know the fighter, sometimes you kind of have it in your mind before the fight's even announced. Right? I'm just here to tell you that this Golovkin guy, circle his name. He beats most at middleweight. I know that now before future fights are even announced with the guy. Let me also say, too, that Golovkin, again, very high boxing IQ, knows how to fight small. In other words, he leans forward and he crouches down, hides his head. It's going to be very hard for a taller fighter at middleweight to beat him, right? That taller fighter is going to have to move so much and pump so many jabs from so far away as to not be countered that task is almost impossible, right? If you're going to beat Golovkin, you're going to have to find a way to, deal with his power and aggression. That's going to be awfully hard. Let me hear from you. Thanks for watching.